Hello, you're listening to the Nii Lamptey Show. My name is Joey. This week I'm joined by Neil.
Hello.
And by Imogen.
Hi, Joe.
I thought I'd try a bit of
like a royal death announcement.
I thought I'd try a bit of a sexier intro this week.
It works.
I'm glad that's got everyone. If guys, take a minute to pause and calm yourself down if that's been too arousing. Let's try and keep things football related. We've got moments of the week. Now, what I wanted to start off with moments of the week for both of you is, now both of you have been very, very vocal about now is the time to change the manager. I just wondered if you wanted to go to justify why you've changed so heavily from 3 weeks ago when we last recorded.
I don't want to indulge in this nonsense. We ought to.
That's a joke, of course. There is no circumstances in which either of these people would ever question the manager. What are your actual moments of the week then?
Mine is Mark getting involved. So after the match, you normally it's just a clap, but obviously there's been noise recently, and Mark felt the bravest of the people to go forward and actually have a word at somebody who was just giving the team a little bit of grief. That's obviously, we accept the pantomime of the grief, and that happens, but I think it was a important moment that he feels like he had to do something, he had to say something. But I think it was also an important moment that whether people were just doing it because he was there or not, there was then a loud noise for him, a lot of support for him, a lot of people backing him up, and it was a decent moment just for people to once again remember that you don't always have to be absolutely mad at the people trying their best for your team. So yeah, I just think it was a good moment. It was a big moment for him because he's never had to do that before. So it had to be my moment of the week.
The other thing that I thought was nicely emblematic of real life is that the people that then supported Mark after the initial shouters, they were supporting Mark anyway. They just weren't shouting good or bad. And as usual, what happens is two people make a lot of noise and everyone thinks that they represent something, but it's because everyone else is quiet. It's just then.
But it isn't quite that at them anymore. It's more than that now, isn't it? Surely we're not. Obviously, you've got vocal arms stretched people making big gestures, but there's also a lot of. You can kind of hear the background noise, and there's lots of this stuff, but there's also really funny stuff. Somebody said, "Knock him out, Mark," which I just thought was amazing. Like, just like what a thing to shout, as if he's going to jump in and knock the guy out. But yeah, I take your point. Yeah, it's certainly not. It wasn't an entire crowd of people like you could imagine it could be at another club.
So look, no, it wasn't. I was standing just to the left of it when it happened, and
were you really?
Yeah.
Presumably with the people that were shouting, because you were a part of that group, you agreed
was
with
calling for Mark's head. Yes. And there was some back and forth with Latty, as his friends call him. And, Mark was standing quite a distance away, spotted the trouble, and like a proud mother bear pointed to the crowd. From quite a distance away, was pointing at the guy who is a man known to away fans as having not a lot in his head, but coke and gas. And he walked towards him, and this guy who had been calling Joel a wanker then shat himself because Robbins was coming up to him. And then everyone was like, yeah, come on, let's show the passion. Yeah, go on, Mark. It was a very strange turn of events. I didn't think that it wasn't particularly an aggressive crowd, to be honest. I think all the emotion had just been sucked out of us by the dire performance. I just wanted to go home. It was a long way away. It'd been quite a warm day. I wanted to leave the north. But people reacted to it differently. It's interesting, Neil, that you said that it was important. There was also feelings of he's never had to do that before. He's losing it. He's not as composed as he was. But actually, having viewed it later, I'm more inclined to agree with you in that I think he was just standing up for Joel, who he was coming up and I wasn't standing close enough to hear what Joel was saying, but I could see him mouthing, I know. So presumably this guy was shouting abuse at him and he was saying, I know that we're shit. We'll get better, or something to that effect.
Yeah. And I think it's almost just acknowledging the actual reality that he spoke about in the last few games, which is, however you like it, there is now a group of players who do seem lacking in belief, do seem to be going through a bit of a crisis of confidence, and also there doesn't seem to be much vocality within there. So the only one coming forward at that point was Joel Lamptey, who's coming up to the fans and having a chat with the fans, in however you want to do that. I just felt like it was one of those moments where he just offered some support, knowing the reality of what players are going through. And you've got one player, and then you've got a line of players, 20 yards back. Nobody really want to go and engage with the fans. Mainly because they don't really have much of that personality to be able to do that. I'm not saying they should go that to antagonize or even try and engage with it, because the thing is, if they did go forward, they probably would have got a lot more grief. So that's fine. But I just think, it was just a sign that maybe he recognizes that there are some issues there which don't get fixed overnight, and maybe he needed some support, or we needed to show a little bit of different kind of leadership that he's had to do before. And that's kind of all I saw it for.
By the way, the players are damned if they don't and damned if they do, right? Because if they
Exactly.
don't come and acknowledge the crowd, they're going to get called fucking wankers and whatever anyway. And then they do come and acknowledge the crowd, and then they get a barrage of abuse for whatever. And I thought the post-game interview with Lamptey was interesting, because that's the first time I've heard him speak. I don't know whether that's something that I've missed previously or whatever. And he exuded big, quiet leader energy to me. Just thought he was just really... I love it when he was just like, we haven't been good enough. I just thought that took a lot of bravery. Do you know what I mean? Just what's it like? I like the fact that he was just like, look, I get it. Like we haven't been good enough. Like we're just as cross as everyone else is. Like, and as well as he didn't even really criticize the people that were shouting. He was just just very eloquently took it on his chin. I'd got a lot of respect for that. I am going to chuck in what I was considering for moment of the week, although there's a few things that I would chuck in just because we're talking about it anyway, is that then the post-game interview included one of the best Mark moments that I've ever heard, which is him saying, I get that people are annoyed, yada, 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 but these are young lads, right? They can't deal with criticism. They're not able to take,
fucking snowflakes.
What you're saying and how you're saying it represent two very different things there, Mark. It's like, you've got to remember these young people, they can't take criticism. I'm not saying cowards, but you know what I mean, right? Right. Unfortunately, Matt, I think we do. I just hope that you're not transmitting that same level of sympathy directly to the players, because
there's honesty and PR.
Listen, guys, look, we get it. You can't handle anything, yeah? That's why we're here to help. Like, well, I don't know whether that is that help.
That'll help.
Imogen, moment of the week?
I went to all 3 games, and it was really difficult to pick out a moment of the week. But no, I'm going to go with QPR, because I sat in the home end with my boss, Clive, who is a legend.
Imogen, I saw you on the telly.
It.
So this is what happened. I was watching it, and you were next to a guy who I imagine
Clive,
was
I was next to Clive.
You were next to Clive. What happened was, it was like, well, this is the QPR. That looks like Imogen, but this is the QPR end. It can't be her. So I didn't acknowledge it. It was you.
Me. It was bloody me. God, well, that's my moment of the week. Forget what I was about to say. Clive's got 2, not Clive Eakin, has got 2 tickets in the home end, and pretty much bullied me into going there. And for the sake of my career, I accepted. And I had a lovely time, because they are as miserable as us, if not more so. They are sad people, nice people, good people, but sad, very sad. And Cifuentes, having been such a popular choice last season, is not so popular now. And they were terrified every time the ball came anywhere near our defence. And after about 15 minutes of pearl clutching, I just had to turn to Clive and say, look, mate, I can't stress this to you enough. We are not going to score again. And you will have an opportunity, if not to equalise, to win. And it is a burden being right this often, but so it proved.
Oh dear.
Yeah. But I had a lovely time. There were nice people. It was quite painful. I haven't sat on the home end for a long time. I forgot how shit it is when they score and you're the only one sitting down.
What were you like when we scored? Pure silent? Yeah.
Just a little fist bump. But I had to be polite. Again, my career was on the line.
Did people around you know? Did anybody get a sense that were you talking openly about being a Cov fan?
Well, Clive was talking quite loudly about it. I was like, if we could keep this down, because I don't really want to be turned on if we win about 5-0, but fortunately Cov had me covered.
With the greatest of respect, is hearing you talk in the QPR home end. I don't think that you're going to be
one of them.
Don't think you're going to be found out. This isn't David Collins talking in the QPR home.
No, and it was in a way it was comforting to know that they were as bad as us. But then in another way, after about 10 minutes, he was like, "Oh yeah, you are bad, aren't you?" So, well, all right.
Well, I can say it. Like,
I'm allowed to say that.
These are my people.
It's like if someone insults your mum, you're like, I know she's a pain, but I think you need to keep quiet about that. So, yeah, we're both in similar boats.
Well, that's what's funny, because we were so focused on us scoring that goal, and it took us a long time to score that goal in terms of the amount of chances we had to finally get it in the net. And I was all focused on that. And then you see the replay, and you just change your focus to QPR and realise just how bad their defending was at that point. You're like, oh my God. Shit. If we're bad, this is horrific. It was so bad. I don't think it's as bad as what we've done recently. It was atrocious.
That one goal has got multiple, even within the one goal, has got multiple contenders for moment of the week alone in it for me. because one of the nice ones is when I watched it back, I realised just how well Rudoni does to turn that into a load of missed opportunities into a goal. And his movement to drop out of the box and then drop back in to win the ball back in the way that he does is magical, is really, really, really lovely. So I thought that was, had started with Rudoni, seeing him pre-season and thinking, this guy could be like a massive, massive turning point for how we'll play. Then seeing him as the season's gone on is I've been a bit like, oh, I wonder not. But in recent weeks, I'm starting to sort of see if we could be good, I wonder whether he gets much better in the same way that John Fleck got better when the team got better and got worse when the team got worse. I get the impression he's a bit like, and Chief, me and Paul were talking about kind of primary and secondary players. Some players, Vic, Gus, would just be good no matter what. Some players need good players around them, which is fine. It's not a criticism. That's just, it's a team game, isn't it? And so one thing I just thought, I keep seeing flashes in recent weeks of Rudoni where you just go, when we get good, I bet you're going to be really, really good. The second moment of the week within that goal for me was that, to some extent, that goal is exactly how I want to see us play football and is exactly how I think our squad is best set up to operate, which is to clear the ball upfield from a corner, run really fast, and then even if we need 8 shots, we've baffled them so badly that
get it in.
We just did it. And then the overwhelming disappointment after we'd scored that goal so early like that, where I was like, I wonder whether this is what we're going to do tonight. Then being like, no. We are going to sit in really deep like I'd want us to. But when we get the ball, we're also just going to try and keep it at the back somehow. We're not going to try at least at all to split. I just think Wright and Thomas Asante out of possession, just keep them wide. And then we win it back, bring them both inside and send them. But it's like, no.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
We'll be winning it back and we will largely be pondering it about in our own half for some reason. And you're just like, I think if you've got some quite fast, skillful lads up front, we might just want to give it a go. But
give them a go.
So I got very excited with that goal. I was like, oh, hello, we might be a bit more rock and roll. No, not at all. And then, like you say, the third one was kind of going, well, it might have taken a few attempts here, but at least we got it in. And then watching it back a few more times and being like, we could have had 80 shots in that move because QPR had just decided they weren't defending.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe, because I thought what happened is we'd had 3 shots in quite quick succession, but they take so long between the 3 shots when you watch it back that the whole squad is in the box by the time. Right. I thought we'd broken so quickly that they couldn't get back and defend it. We were like, bro, like pinball. No, it's ages. Between the first shot and then Wright's goal, it's like 30 seconds. The whole squad has got back. You're just like, oh, you just don't know what you're doing anymore.
No,
it was just
and the fact that final shot goes in as well. Like,
I know
he's on his,
he gets a shin to it, and still it goes in. I don't
swings his leg at it, off balance, gets a decent contact, fair enough, and it just straight towards the player and the keeper. And between them, they both decide not really going to get this. We're not going to stop this. It doesn't feel like a shot I'm going to stop. And it's just what? How is that gone past them?
I know that XG is presumably worked out by computers. Imagine if you had to work out the XG of that overall move. You'd be like, well, these are all chances that you can't miss. And one of them has gone in, but only in a way that it really shouldn't have. It's an XG, which is like where you take the shot from and the sort of the circumstances around it. Yeah. There isn't an XG for I've hit it at the keeper and it's still gone in.
There probably is, but it's definitely a decimal point or something like that within it, 0.4 or something.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, I'm glad that we're able to view this with a sort of gallows humour, but it's not been great recently. We've transitioned from kind of the rub of, we're not getting the rub of the green, but that it feels like in a few weeks things might improve, to now being like, I don't know what's happening anymore. Is that fair, or am I being a bit too pessimistic about that, Imogen?
Does that feel? Go on, you go on.
I was just going to say, I think we looked slightly better against QPR than we did against Preston. I think there are tiny, tiny little green shoots. It's a low bar, but it's there.
But that's good. That's progress, I guess.
But maybe that's the progress we need. Like, and it's people are going to hate it. They're really going to hate it. And I'm the one who always expects top 6 or every season, all that sort of nonsense. But he came out and said building blocks afterwards. And when we've started the season talking about winning the league and, you know, the aim high and all that season ticket stuff, it's really, really quite hard to take going away to probably the team with the least confidence in the league below us, playing. We didn't really play well. We played better, but didn't play well. Coming away with a draw and having to acknowledge again the reality of it, which it probably is a building block. You don't want it to be. You want us to just turn on and eventually like sod confidence. We're better than them. We should be able to win that game normally, but sometimes it is just that. And like, this doesn't feel unfamiliar to me as well. And that's the weird thing. So not that what happens in the past will always happen again in the future, but this is no different to the way we were feeling when we lost those 4 games in a row last season, or it's no different to the way that, in the sense of the drama that occurs and the noise that occurs when you lose a few games in a row. And we didn't do anything for the first 3 months of last season. Nothing at all. Like we were ambling away to points. That's all we were really doing. Are you sure you can? But like, did we find any rhythm? I don't think we found any rhythm. We looked all right, but we didn't have any.
I think that isn't the turning point game in sort of at this point, which is kind of like early mid-October. Or is it Preston away where it just didn't work?
It was later in November. Like it was mid-November, but not. Okay. I'm just pulling. Yeah, go on.
No, it was me. It was me pulling my face at you. You were the one with the point.
Yeah, but this is. I'm not saying it's familiar because it's exactly the same. I'm saying it's familiar in the sense that over the course of every season, there are these moments where things don't go. And certainly recently, the early season, there were these periods of games where 3-4 games go along and we're not doing anything. We're not feeling like we're kind of able to, whip up any kind of momentum. And that's not me saying, okay, there isn't an issue, but I'm also not saying that these issues are terminal. I'm just saying that once again, these are things that you have to resolve. And the really annoying thing for people might be Imagine if there was like some sort of magic machine out there which could tell you the exact issue that was on a football pitch, what's going on. And the exact issue that with our football pitch at the moment is what Mark's saying, which is confidence is a problem. Imagine if that's the problem. How do you resolve that? You don't just say, right, any given game, we change the tactics, we turn the players and everything's good again. It takes a bit of time. It might take some luck. It might take all this sort of stuff. And it's like, go on. I feel like you want to say something.
And then, well, only to that particular bit. And I know this is a bit of a bit of a crusade of mine. Aren't there some, if we're saying, let's say, for example, that it is confidence, aren't there some practical things that you could do that would maybe influence confidence, such as when you've got 4 strikers, not giving them more than a 60-minute consecutive run across any 2 games. Like if I was all 4 of those strikers, I would think the manager thinks I'm shit because I can't even get a full 90 minutes, basically. Even like depending on the one game I start up front with this guy and then I get dragged at 60 if I'm a striker, and we know that strikers are, I mean, young people, as Mark has told us, have got, they can't deal with criticism. Strikers are the most kind of like sensitive of all of the players, sort of stereotypically at least. And I just wonder, I can't ever remember ever seeing a team where the level of rotation between 4 strikers during games, it must be hard to build up any sort of rhythm for them. But more than anything, I just think if I was one of them strikers, I just think I've got no love from the manager here. Like the manager doesn't think I'm capable of seeing this game out and doesn't think I'm capable of making the difference in this game to allow me to even stay on the pitch. And it's all well and good. So I think the argument from him would be it's a fitness thing and it's a squad thing and a rotation thing. But we know that players don't think like that because we've heard them being interviewed and we've heard them talking. They're sensitive beasts, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess we're then in a rock and a hard place, aren't we? Because there's a difference between influencing something and hoping it eventually has an issue and fixing something. And what do you do in that situation where you have players who are, if you judge it blindly, they're simply not performing on the pitch, like someone like Ellis Sims who had a 60-minute performance or something and simply isn't doing it. Do you in that moment say, well, I'm going to sacrifice this game for the sake of this person's confidence? Or do you simply have to say, look, we're going to have to do something here and hope that at some point somebody does enough within their portion of time to actually develop some confidence? Like, I'm not saying I have the answer and I'm not saying it's not complicated, but there are 2 very different things there, aren't there? There's one that in an ideal world, you give somebody a run and the people around them have confidence and then maybe they carry them. Like Sims, he played more games early on last season and people around them were playing better. We're in a situation at the moment where the squad, the team, the dynamic, the noise seems to be riddled with lack of belief. And it's not just one person. And we're just having to find a way to use tenacity to get points rather than skill or anything like that. So I don't know what he does to fix it. I don't know what he does. I just feel like if it is confidence, sometimes it's going to annoy everybody, but sometimes that might take time and that might take lucking a couple of goals.
So, yeah, I'm really desperate to not keep talking. I'm sorry. Imogen, where do you stand on this?
I think it's with the confidence thing. I suppose it depends what he's telling the players beforehand. If he's saying to them, look, we're going to play you for 65 minutes and then we're going to change it. This is always part of the game plan. It's no reflection on how well you are doing, but this is how we're going to play it. Then maybe that helps them. I don't know if that's what they're doing. It seems unlikely, particularly the way that we have been so reactive. Go on.
No, I bet that's exactly what's happening because I think it's preordained, right? Like it's not it's happening so often that I don't think this isn't tactics. This is strategy. Do you not think?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he said
but that suggests you can control it. And what about if you can't control it completely? And I know that goes against all football logic, but what about if you can't control everything that's going on right now?
No. But I'm saying that. Sorry, I'm saying that I think the Image is making a really good point there. I'd say, which is you can have a go at saying to the players, "You're coming off for this reason." Yeah.
Yeah.
which I think is happening. I think they are. And I think but I have got a feeling that players don't care. They just want to play. I don't think they're like, oh, if it's for the good of the team, that's great.
They don't understand that thing where you want to say at the beginning of the season, look, you're all going to play loads of minutes, but unfortunately we're now doing the American thing and we're using the subs bench and we're having power plays and all that sort of stuff, which people just don't like to. That's what Mark wants to do, isn't it? He wants to use his bench because he's bought this massive squad. Like, yeah, so I definitely take that point. I definitely agree with that point that the players, they're not going to they're only ever going to see it as a slight when they're taken off the pitch. They're nowhere near mature enough to recognise that as anything other than we're taking you off because we think this player can do better. So I definitely, I accept that point, definitely.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. Look, I don't know who you're pointing to, Jerry. I don't know how your screen's laid out.
That's a very good point. Yeah. I'm pointing to you, in fact. Yeah.
All right, fab. He was asked in the post-match about the formation change, and he said it was partly personnel and partly the way that we are. I don't know what that means. I genuinely, you know that I think he's God, but what the fuck does that mean?
He says it is what it is a lot now as well. Yeah. That's definitely is one of his favourites.
And he's disappointed. He's got a lot of disappointment built up in him. But it doesn't feel like there was certainly at Preston, less so against QPR, but certainly against Preston, it did not feel like there was a plan. Or if there was a plan, it was not built into what was happening on the pitch.
How do you feel about the new formation?
I mean, it's hard to feel any way about the formation because it's not going to stay the same. It's going to change, and there will be this. They won't stick with anything, and you can't make a judgment on a formation after a game. He needs to choose something and stick with it because this chopping and changing isn't working. I don't know why he's doing it.
Were you surprised that we played the same formation against QPR?
Yes, pleasantly so. Not necessarily because I thought it was brilliant against Preston, but at least there's some consistency and we can try and build out from it.
There seems to be some consensus that I couldn't really get my head round, which was that the formation change was a temporary thing to nullify particular Preston threats, which, again, I don't know Preston well enough but it felt to me like this is if we use the Preston example again from last season, it felt like this is kind of, there's an acceptance now that we have a bad start, change formation and that things get back on track. And that it felt like this was this season's, let's have a go at this formation and that we'd keep going at it.
What, at Preston?
I figured that we would then say the same against QPR, which we did. But a lot of people I spoke to were like, no, I think it's just a one-off and we'll go back to it. I think that's probably now the formation that he will use for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, he's trying to stabilise. I think it's obvious what he's now trying to do. He wants Lamptey in the team. I think that leadership thing is critical for him. I think he's trying to find a way to make best of all the players that he has available to him, including probably playing two strikers, which is something he's got four strikers. He's probably want to play a couple more of those. But I think, it is a stability thing. It's how can he find a way to work themselves out of this rut by trying to be as stable as possible, trying to not concede too many goals and trying to just work our way back into some sort of structure, some sort of rhythm. I can't see how it is sustainable or a long-term thing simply because you do that, you basically say goodbye to somebody like Sakamoto being able to play much of the game. And the other thing is, I think as much as Van Ayvak has the attributes and you think he should be a wing back, I think there's a personality thing there where actually he does most of his work where he's engaging and interacting with somebody around him. And maybe it's a status or stature thing or something on that side of the pitch where we saw it the other night and we've seen it a few times when he's been the only person on that side of the pitch. He loses that kind of freedom to do something because I think he's so wary of the fact that that entire side of that pitch is his own half. Whereas if he's working and interacting with a Sakamoto, he just seems to have a bit more confidence to maybe try and take somebody on. And I mean, that's not just an observation based on last night. That's something that I felt most of the time I see him. And it's not they can't function there. It's just that I think over the course of time, he's going to have a far better time if we play him as part of a partnership on the right hand side rather than the only guy. So that's where this sort of formation thing is let's do what we can to build up some rhythm into a place where maybe we're comfortable to change the formation and see how we go then. That's all got to work out though, hasn't it? Otherwise we'll change again.
I felt really sorry for him on Tuesday night because I agree with everything that you've said there. For whatever reason, a player that seems so conceptually perfect for right wing back, for whatever reason, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think this is a guy that likes partnerships, and right wing back is a position where you quite yourself, and there's a lot of personal responsibility to go up and down, which he's got the physical attributes to do, but that doesn't seem to. Quite often, when there isn't a very direct attack on the left hand side, or where we're in position, he sets his position like how he's seen it on Football Manager. Do you know what I mean? Like in this very specific bit of the pitch that is. But ironically, that's probably the one area of the pitch that a wing back probably doesn't really want to be. Like it's either. Yeah. You know what I mean? But the other thing was that he got let down, I felt, by the fact that Chair and Saito were, for me, the wildly two strongest players on the pitch for QPR, and they just let them double up on him over and over again. And I've never seen a player spook Van Eyck like Saito.
Yeah.
Oh, he had him on toast. It was embarrassing.
Defensively and attackingly. He did everything.
Yeah.
There's one moment right towards the start of the game in like the first 10 minutes where he eyeballs him and then just boots it past him and runs past him. And I should imagine that Van Eyck don't get done for pace like that regularly. No. And I just think from that moment on was like, I ain't even sure not only where to stand, but what I'm meant to be doing about this geezer on my own. And I felt for him. I think he come out of it looking, he looked like he played really badly, but I also sympathise with him because I think he was really on a hide into nothing, weren't he?
Actual battle.
But it is a problem if you're going to play that formation, I think. And I do wonder whether, rightly or wrongly, I did look at it and think, I wonder whether Sakamoto could do that instead. But I think I've also got to accept that I am wildly biased into thinking that he could do anything when other thoughts about the format? Imogen, would you persevere with that formation just as a function of persevering with anything, basically?
Yeah. I don't think it's perfect, but we need some consistency and stability, and they are utterly devoid of confidence. You can see it in them. There were times where, QPR were dreadful, and they could so easily have been picked off. They were gifting us so many opportunities, and we weren't taking it. And there was one point just before the goal, Binks ran into a camera, like collided with a camera. And instead of just getting up and running to where he should have been, he was apologizing to the camera. I was like, for fuck, just please go. Please stop doing this. It was pretty bleak. Yeah, and you could, Preston, when the goal went in there, it wasn't just their heads dropped, their whole bodies they sank into the ground. And I know Preston's a free hit. they could sit in the centre circle singing Kumbaya and we still wouldn't get anything out of it. But come on. Preston, they had a lot of opportunities, but nothing. They weren't fantastic. There were opportunities there. And we just didn't have the confidence or the bravery to take them on. And that's frustrating. If you play at your best and you lose, that's one thing, but they just look scared. And I think it will change, but it's got to change quickly.
If we merge these two things, so we'd keep the formation and we accept that in fact, let's hypothesize that one of the things to do would be to tell certain players that they're going to get played through the confidence barrier. So don't worry about missing chances. Don't worry about kind of whatever it takes. You're playing the next 5 games unless you get injured. You're not coming off. You're not anything because I trust you and you're the players now that are going to go through these next 5. Who are your front 2?
I would definitely start with Brandon Thomas Asante. I think he works so hard and he's getting nothing back. And I really want to see if that is a confidence thing gelling with the rest of the team thing. And if I'm proved wrong after 5 games, then, you know, we never see him again. But yeah, I'd start with him.
And?
Probably right. I quite liked, there were moments on Tuesday night where the two of them, when you were talking about the pincer movement, albeit briefly, it did work, particularly for the goal. Let's give that a go.
Neil?
I partially struggle with the question because I really think that striker is a position where, depending on the game, it has to be somebody different and they have different functions to play. So like 5 games in a row of the same striker starting realistically doesn't work. But if the question is like, who's up front, it's, yeah, I'm Haji Wright, I think, has to be on the pitch. I think that even if he seems indifferent to stuff, like, well, that might be annoying, but the moment he gets the ball and runs and he gets past a player, he's got something to offer. Him, and I think I agree. I think Thomas Asante, just in terms of liveliness, I think in a moment of time where we're maybe lacking character or lacking purpose, that is probably what you need. And that's not to say that somebody like Bissett doesn't offer that same sort of exuberance, but we also need presence. And I think right now, Thomas Asante probably does offer more presence up front and the ability to at least make himself known to defenders, even if he's not actually able to get anything off them. What about you?
I really, really, really struggle to watch Thomas Asante. He's this player. This is not my player, but he is my first choice out of the 4 at the moment for the same reasons that you guys have said. I think if I don't know enough about Bissett. If Wright and Sims are functioning, I just see 2 immensely better players than Thomas Asante. But it's hard to argue that he isn't performing the best out of the 4 of them at the moment. And I think that let's go existential again. I think if you've got a boss, right, what you want is for your boss not to be mollycoddling or a prick. What you want is you want fairness. And so in terms of the confidence building stuff, I think if you look Ellis Sims in the eye and say to him, I think you're probably a better player than Thomas Asante. Thomas Asante is playing better than you are at the minute, and I'm going to give him the next 5 games. And if he doesn't perform, you're in. And when you're in, you've got 5 games to show me why you're better. I think that's the point where you go, as Ellis Sims, all right, well, I disagree, and my confidence is shot, and I'm annoyed, my pride's burnt and whatever. But actually, as long as he keeps his word, I've got a chance to then give it a go. And I know that as well, if I have one bad game in that game where I first come in, I've got another 4 to try and repair it. Because anything could happen in one game. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's it like against? Think about Blackburn. Blackburn was a 3-0 win that we could have lost 4-0.
Yeah.
There's too much can happen in the course of, it's too random the course of one game. That's why that's why I've got this fixation over the kind of the constant swapping of players over, because you're right. Like logically, it makes sense. Swap it over because they'd be fresher and whatever else. I just think psychologically, every time that player comes off on 60 or doesn't start, the psychology of it is, well, I haven't started, so you prefer someone else. And I'm coming off because you think I've done terribly.
Yeah. And it's what it triggers then, I guess. And like what you've just said there actually does resonate. It does feel like if you position it fairly and logically, it could trigger, like you say, a drop in confidence. But for you, we know it could trigger a defiance in him. It could trigger any sort of emotion, which then allows him to come back stronger than it, or maybe with a little bit more focus than it kind of shows at the moment. Because, and just on a point on Sims when we mentioned it, I actually thought it was a positive thing the more I looked at it. You know, him going through the other day and everybody's saying, why did you not play it to Bissett? And logically, yes, absolutely. You play it to the free guy. But I looked at it, thought, hang on. This is the guy I want to see. I want to see Sims just taking the ball and fucking going for it.
Same.
You're 6'4". I want you bashing the other team. Just go for it. And he didn't score. and he should have passed and all that logical stuff. But for him, just fucking go for it. I need more from him. I need that more.
So I couldn't agree with you more, right? But also, people are talking about it like he'd gone through, was in the 6-yard box and could have squared it in for a tap in, yeah?
Exactly.
Actually,
Yeah.
He's
There's a lot to do.
early.
He's on his wrong foot at speed with a defender in the way.
2 defenders in the way.
I don't even think he's looked up and seen Bissett. Bissett must be 30 yards away, right? People are talking about it like it's like it's an absolute in the 80 odd minute of the game. Like, I don't get why people are saying this is the other thing, and I'm getting a bit inflamed about it, is people are also saying about Dovin. That goal isn't his fault. I just don't think it's his fault at all.
I can't work out what happened. Was it a deflection or anything? Or did he just get wrong-footed?
He bangs it into the floor. So there's like 3 players in front of him, and the player hits it on the volley and bangs it into the floor. Dovin just sees the player, presumably through a crowd of players.
Yeah, that's true.
Sees the player hits it on the volley, starts to go one way, ball hits the floor, and just wrong foots him slightly. I just think sometimes that can happen. I've seen a load of people, and again, probably a vocal minority that don't really represent what's going on, being like, that's a terrible goalkeeping error. The reason it's in my mind is a load of mates, not a load, some of my mates that are not COV fans have watched it on Sky Sports News and been like, God, your keeper's really made a howler for that. And it's like, no, I don't think he has. And I feel really sorry for him because is it Dom saying on here a little while ago about he needs a game where he really asserts himself so that COV fans can like him a bit more. I thought he was having that game.
Yeah. I guess he had it. Did he have it? He made some saves against, was it Preston? He actually made some saves, some good saves. He kind of kept us going, which was like, okay, that's the start of what we need to see.
Yeah, I thought he made some good saves against Preston, but in terms of asserting himself on Tuesday, there was a few times of like this, which I think is bullshit, by the way, but of balling out defenders and like, making a save and then getting up and having it. Like he seemed to be a bit more kind of dominant and commanding to me against QPR, albeit that you were there, Imogen. I don't know whether you would disagree. Your faces.
No, I generally agree with you. 1 or 2 mix-ups. What I found baffling was at Preston, they decided to have their central defender take the goal kick, pass it to the goalkeeper, who then pass it back. And I was sitting there thinking, what a fucking load of shite is this? We've got a lot of problems, but at least we're not doing this. Lo and behold, at QPR, and that's exactly what we were doing. Binks was passing it to Dovin, who was then apparently had no idea what to do with it, either to pass back across the face of goal to him or pass it to Latibodiere, who was being marked. Why are we doing this? Why is this a new thing? Yeah, unbelievable. No idea why that had come in, but if it could promptly go away again, that'd be great. But generally, I thought he was fine. He picks out a really lovely crossfield ball to Binks against Preston, and we all turned to each other and went, yeah, Wilson's not doing that. That was really classy. Yeah, generally, but he's got a very weak, porous defence in front of him. So you'd be hoping that he'd be asserting himself because no one else is.
We've not bought him to be. The other thing is that the mad thing is that was dropped for Wilson in recent weeks, and I don't know where this has come from, but it was so pervasive that you have to think that there might be some truth to it. Was the idea that he either wasn't vocal enough or kind of wasn't aggressive enough or whatever kind of very macho idea of what a goalkeeper should be. But that he was brought in very specifically because he was the good with the ball at his feet goalkeeper. Why then all of a sudden, if what you wanted all along was a really kind of goalkeeper, you've already got Ben Wilson. Don't buy the guy that needs. And I've got a big sort of general football bee in my bonnet in a minute about, I don't know how much Match of the Day that you watch. I think the last month of Match of the Day has become like a compilation of like Danny Baker's own goals and gaffes, where every team is trying to play it out from the back and is unable to do so. And you just see goal after goal after goal of either like Robert Sanchez making mistakes at Chelsea or Southampton constantly trying to, you just think this is all this football ideology is fine, but that not if you're just conceding like crazy amounts of goals. Like it's not, that's not better than, I get it, but that just, maybe it's all right to just bypass a high press by kicking it long or whatever. Just win the game.
Completely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I would have liked to have known what Oggy said about that. I cannot imagine that sat well with him on commentary.
Certainly not.
I would have enjoyed that.
Oggy's terrific, isn't he? Because he's so, what's the word? Not like politically correct. You know what I mean? Like, what's it like? So balanced. Yeah. But you can tell that he's must be thinking, just make some saves and kick it upfield. There's a reason I was really good. I was prepared to get my nose broken 3 times a season. I saved every shot that came. And I booted it fucking well.
I could score from shooting.
Let me send you some Wimbledon videos. You'll enjoy these.
For me, I'll try and keep this brief. It's horses for courses. Man City can play out from the back. If you've got the players that can do it, then that's absolutely the right thing to do. If you haven't, then just do something different. And I just don't think we have. Just don't think we've got the players there. So just do something else.
That'll be Mark's biggest problem. I think ever since he's been here, he wants us to be that team. He starts every season with this intention. And whether he's forced into it or whether just by like osmosis organically, we end up not being that team because he realizes, or the team realizes, that actually it makes more sense to give it to Hamer or give it to Gyökeres and let them go and do it. Like that just makes more sense. And I don't like, stats are interesting to me. And the one that really intrigued me last season was this whole sort of disparity between when we actually have more of the ball. We invariably lost the game. We just couldn't seem to do much when we had the ball unless the team had 10 men. And then when we don't have the ball, it brings out a completely different dynamic in us and we find a way to be more impactful and score goals and just absorb pressure and not do the daft things and let the other teams like Blackburn try and play out of the back every single time they come to the CBS, do the same thing and just get beaten. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like you say, if you've got the players and you have the method and you are just dominating, it makes sense. If you are just struggling to do it and you keep continuing to do it, what are you thinking? Like, what are you doing?
But also, we keep buying players, especially attacking players, of a very specific type, and that Sakamoto is the only one that books the trend. So, of the attacking players that we've bought in the last 3-4 years, I think, as a very, very, very loose categorization, you could say, quick, somewhat physical, but that you probably don't want them to have too much time on the ball. You want the instinctive players. So Gyökeres would be the absolute template of that for me, is that you wouldn't want Gyökeres to try and score a sitter, but that if you want someone to kind of just get it, batter a defender, kick it 20 yards and run after it or whatever, like there was it like, that's your guy. But that we keep buying like Bissett has been described as like mini Gyökeres or whatever, which I don't really see, but do you know what I mean? Is kind of like Wright. I love watching Wright, but Wright is chaos. And I think that the more touches that Wright has, the worse he gets. Where Wright's really good is scoring the goal that he scored against QPR. Is that Wright, when he shoots, is that whether he hits the keeper or not, it goes in. I think he's a good finisher. I think he hits his shots on target and he finds himself in good positions. But I don't want him to be trying to beat 4 players or trying to pass. But that we keep buying players of this template and then being like, and what we're going to do is we're going to try and play intricate passing football. I just don't think we have the squad for it.
Do you think the attackers form part of that template though? Is it almost feels like the players we've bought have fitted into this weird template where the people who are responsible for building and for maintaining tempo, so defenders and midfielders, are the template. So they're like you say, these are the players who are supposedly the ones who are good with the ball. And then you explosively create an attack when you're in the final third and you have these, because they are, like you say, they're all big, they're all strong, they're all fast. And I'm kind of with you. They don't seem like people you want to have with the ball, which makes me to think maybe that is by design. You think they're not?
But
maybe they're bought in because we want really quick players and really big and strong players up front to help us put the ball in the net when we've built up an attack.
So I say that's a really good point. So maybe then that is a functional problem. What's happening is that they're getting the ball in different ways or earlier or whatever it is, which is also a completely possible thing. But it's still a structural breakdown of one version or another, I guess.
Yeah.
Still good apart from everything else that we've just said. All fine, right?
Yeah, sorted.
Well, here's the thought. If we win, I'm not saying this is going to happen. If we win the next 2 games, everything changes, doesn't it? In terms of how people think about stuff, which in my own mind is a big problem. In the sense of if we win the next 2 games and let's say Middlesbrough lose on Saturday, we're right up with them. And at the moment they're 8th. And it's just like, that's how on a knife edge everything that is happening at the moment is. And like the fact, and that's why I have issues with the whole Robins sacking conversation, because if your conversation can be negated by winning a couple of games, that's a problem in the way that you're judging things. Like if you win a couple of games, but you still recognize that there's a major problem. Whereas if Robins wins a couple of games on the bounce now, you don't want him out. You're like, right, you fixed it.
No, but your problem is that you're holding a different crystal ball than they are.
This is a hypothetical, though, isn't it? It's like,
yeah, of course.
But if we say that happens, then...
But their crystal ball says we lose the next 2 games.
And there we go, and that's different. But but the response to that is always punish, not fix, isn't it? It's always...
No, but you must get what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, so your glass is always half full, right? And the people... So let's use you and Paul, which is the classic example, right? Is Paul has got... Paul, when you talk to him, has got what you would describe politically as concerns about the current state of affairs, right? And the way that he sees it is, by the way, I don't think he wants, I'm not speaking for Paul, although it is fun to do so. Paul has said that he would have Robins lynched, not just sacked. No, he's saying he's not sure whether there is like a successful turnaround imminently, right? So which is fine. Which I think what you're saying is kind of like, if we win those next 2 games, those people will quieten down. And you're absolutely right, they will do. And what Paul is saying is, if we lose the next 2 games, people will get further over to my argument, which is that like maybe
exactly
there's a systematic problem. And the problem is that we are, it's Schrodinger's football club. We don't know what the next 2 games will be. And so I don't think you can criticize either side, because actually there might be very fair pointing fingers at systematic problems that won't get fixed as the season goes on. Or this might be the same blip as we've had over the last 2 months, 2 seasons, that will fix itself. And actually it's the championship. So it doesn't even matter where you can be bottom in February and still win the league because it's the championship. Is mental. But that nobody knows.
Which is fine. So I'm kind of, I accept the differing sides. And I think my point is exactly that. The fact that the 2 sides are so split by this transient thing where if one thing happens, people change their mind, and the other thing happens, people change their mind. If your mind can be changed by that event so quick either way, surely there's almost an element of lack of perspective or too much impulsiveness about it. Like if what happens in the next 2 games means that somebody wants somebody sacked, or actually it's all fine, if that's how quickly something can change, surely we're judging things too quickly. Surely that's too impulsive. Now, I'm not, obviously, if you're saying the other thing that happened where we lose the next 2 games and people continue to think it, I'm just saying that if maybe people are just willing Mark to get it right, and that's why they'll feel that way. But I just feel like the focus is very much on when do we get to a point where we get to punish somebody for this? And I don't know how comfortable I am with that as a process in football. And I know I'm not the person to talk to about this, because I am the optimist and I'm the person who tries to avoid the pantomime and all that sort of stuff. But I do think that it is impulsive and it's so changeable. And if something happens in the next 2 games and it changes the way everybody feels about something, do we not sit back and think, well, actually, do you think maybe we were just a bit mad then? Why were we feeling so impulsive, ready to sack somebody, and now we're okay with it? Surely you sack somebody if there's something fundamentally wrong, not something that can be fixed within 2 games. Is that not a different thing?
Imogen?
I am not an optimist, but I do love Mark. This is a tough place for me to be. Let's go for the nihilistic option and say, if we get rid of Mark, no one's going to do any better. Like, Preston got rid of Ryan Lowe and their shit, apart from beating us. But I mean, again, kumbaya. And QPR are shit, even though Cifuentes was their deliverer the end of last season and kept them from a relegation that they look certain to have in, I don't know, March time. Who do you get in that's going to do a better job than a man who has proven that he can not only get us out of trouble, but get us into touching distance of the FA Cup or the Premier League? You might as well stick with him, because who the fuck else are you going to get? Who is available that you think would do a more impressive job? I'm not saying that Robbins is doing an impressive job right now at this, this particular season, but whoever else you're going to get in isn't going to do that either. So you might as well just stick with what you've got.
So in a nutshell, yeah.
Yeah.
However, West Brom have significant financial difficulties, and Carlos Corberán could be.
But that's only helpful if Robbins goes somewhere else so that we can beat his team.
For the record, that's
Also,
not me. That's not a genuine suggestion. That's only just so. Robbins is 100% right, but I really do like what Corberán does.
But this is it, isn't it? But you can be as good as you can, and it's like. But imagine if the problem at a football club isn't who's in charge.
So you're right, Neil. But for the listeners' point, Imogen has got her head very, very firmly in one hand here. I should be clear. That's not my suggestion. But if you're asking me a very direct question, who would we get in?
Yeah, well, he's all right, isn't he?
Yeah, it was a rhetorical, so you
I'm
didn't
sure
need to answer it.
I'm sure it was rhetorical, but unfortunately, I don't know what the word rhetorical means, so I've answered it like a real question. You wouldn't. So if Robbins left,
Yeah.
how do you think Corberán would do with this squad?
Well, I won't care because I'll be in a period of mourning. I shan't go out.
I shall not run.
I shall not. I will sit shiver for Robbins.
Oh, fair play to you.
Thanks.
I'm glad that again we've re-established that you two are actually Mark Robbins fans as opposed to Coventry City fans.
The thing is, the more I think about it, like, because we had the conversation last time, and you put words in both our mouths about us being endlessly loyal to Mark Robbins, which is like, I guess we've given you that impression. But the thing is,
I just like antagonising. I don't think that at all. It's just fun. It's fun to me to put words in people's mouths, basically.
I would as well.
If you did that to me, I'd go fucking mental about it. But,
we were talking actually about previous managers who we felt similarly about. I could only really think of Mickey Adams that inexplicably that I really enjoyed. Do you have any others? Who's yours, Presley?
Look,
I like Presley.
Hang on a second. We've got to get into it. So I was saying that I won't put words into Paul's mouth, but what I will do is act as a mouthpiece in his absence. So, Mickey Adams has, according to Paul, and one of the many unsolicited messages that I get from him on a daily basis, the only manager with a better win percentage than Robbins, or it's second behind Robbins. And I was asked a very direct question the other day from him: would I prefer Adams or Robbins?
Very similar mould.
Well, I want Clary Borton back up front as well. I want all this good stuff.
But look, even that as a comparison is Clary Borton is our all-time record goal scorer, right? That So imagine if you said, who would you prefer, Clary Borton or Dion Dublin? You go, well, there's a time difference and there's a blah, 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 blah. Right. Is that even if Mickey Adams has got the best win percentage, he hasn't got 6 years of almost unparalleled success that Mark Robbins has got. Yeah. The idea that you could be like, who would you prefer out of them, and be like, well, I mean, Mickey Adams probably managed 60 games. He tried to kick off with a fan in a much more proper way than Robin did.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I did.
And as well, had bought Wayne Andrews. Despite all of that, I'd probably go for him above the guy that's won silverware and overseen 2 promotions. I'd probably be more loyal to a guy that I barely even remember the name of.
Joey, you have extrapolated wildly from what I initially said, which was that I quite liked Mickey Adams.
Oh no, this is much more an attack on Paul.
Fine. Continue then, as you were.
No, if we're talking about like unrealistic love of ex-Cov managers, I have none, quite frankly.
Okay.
But I'm glad that Mickey Adams is stoking your fire. Neil?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I enjoyed Stephen Presley. I also enjoyed Roland Nilsson. They were the two which I had thoughts. Presley was just it was a weird moment in time. He was just obscenely passionate and over the top and intense. And it's just like, I think at that moment in time, we needed somebody who was going to look like they cared. And he definitely looked like he cared and acted like he cared, but he had nothing to work with either.
So I'm not going to ask you to elaborate on this, but I'm going to say one word. Despite. Oh, yeah. I completely forgot about these things, but I'm not allowed to mention. Yeah. Despite. You're right. I hate Stephen Presley. We'll let the listeners speculate on what that might be.
Oh God. Oh no, I forgot about that. Yeah. He's not management material. That's what I'd suggest.
Okay. No, for me, it's I'm driven by hatred. So it's not for me irrational love for a manager. It's the constant nightmares I have of the Tony Mowbray 2015-16 team not getting promoted. In light of who was in that squad, and also in light of who played more frequently than some of those players. It's much more important to me to be driven by hate exclusively.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's why I'm so happy about how this season is going, because I've been very perturbed by the recent successes on the pitch. It's been very jarring to me, and it's been horrible to watch the CBS be so full, which is it's not something that I want to see whatsoever. And I'm glad that I am the only person in as far as I'm aware, in the Coventry City support base that bought the League One package as opposed to the Premier League package, which I'm feeling very good about.
What did that encompass?
It was £300 for a season ticket, but it means that if we get relegated this season, I get a free season ticket to League One, which is I'm pretty good with.
Yeah, you did well there.
I like it.
Yeah.
Can we talk about before we finish? Can we talk about some of the more important stuff that's happening with the club? Specifically,
shuttle bus.
I don't even know what shuttle bus is. What can we talk about? Shuttle bus?
No, I didn't want to. I just thought that's what you meant.
I wanted to talk.
Sorry, carry on.
I wanted to talk. Unbelievable. I wanted to talk about the City Unseen with. I'm not an F1 guy, but I am aware of the Japanese guy that was being toured around the club. Is
no idea.
He's a big deal at Haas F1. Yeah.
So I think he's a guy, right? And I saw I saw a preview to that YouTube video. It was a 10-minute video, and I thought, oh, this will be interesting. And I saw a minute at the start of it of him being what looked like a very handsome, humble gentleman, where he was like, "Oh my God, that's George Boateng."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be massive fun." And him and Tats talking in Japanese to each other, and he was like, "Oh, I've got his shirt," and they were like, "Oh, it's the shirt he wore." And he was
no
like,
way.
And he was like, "What, really?" And he was like, "Yeah, he signed it." He was like, "This is his signed shirt." And I was like genuine. I was like, "Oh, what a guy! What a really lovely guy." And then 8 minutes of different angles of the Blackburn game. Nope.
No.
I don't know how you can call it City Unseen and then show me a game that I watched.
Yeah. It's very much seen. Yeah.
I just want to see.
I want to see the behind the bits. I want to see who shakes whose hand beforehand.
Yeah.
I want to see Ellis Sims having a conversation with Sean Dyche.
Yes,
I want to see all that stuff. That's the best stuff.
I don't know why it's so nice. I know we talk about it a lot, but it's just lovely. I loved it. I only watched it earlier. I think you have watched it ages ago. I watched a video of them saying their names.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. Sweet boys.
It's just cute.
Yeah.
It's
They
just,
did well.
just nice.
Louis thinks.
Just nice boys who are mates, aren't they?
Yeah, it's nice.
Better start winning, you bastards.
Wankers.
That's what we're supposed to say, aren't we?
It's really funny to me to think of your friend Imogen, who you were at the Preston game with. Who you were saying that you were stood with, who was balling out Mark Robbins because you
Very much not a friend. Very much
You said you were stood with him, right?
I was stood near him. I'm aware of who he is.
Okay, so you were at the game with him.
Okay.
You've been needling him all game, saying someone's got to have the balls to say something to this management nonsense, right? Is that I like the idea that he has watched a lot of these videos and then has to fight through the empathy with the players through watching them. 60 minutes, he's like, I have to really sort myself up for this because I watched the FIFA video of the reveals, and I can tell that these are real people. I know they are.
They're real, yeah.
Like they're worried about their pace and what people think about them. But I'm going to push through it, and I'm going to shout at them anyway.
Knock him out, Mark.
Must be tricky.
It's got to be, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I'd
really like a day in the life of Mark Robbins. I'd like to see what he does on his day off.
This is the biggest shame because he absolutely refused, wouldn't he?
Yeah, of course, and that's why I love him.
muted the idea of Mark Cam earlier in the season. I just want to see his response to stuff because every time we see his response on the sideline, it's when he's going absolutely mad against Man United, or where he's shouting in the face of a ball boy, or where AD's telling him to shut up because he's gotten too excited against Notts County. It's always gold.
Yeah.
And then, we just don't get to see it sometimes. So maybe because it's not gold when we're not seeing it. But I want more of him on the side.
But I'd like to know what he does. Like, what are his hobbies? Does he have a pastime? Is he a fisherman? Does he like sampling different beers?
Well, we know he's a dinner lady.
Is he a brunch man? Like, what is it?
It would make my fucking life if it turned out that he was going to drag brunches.
Yeah.
That was his big thing. Him and Mrs. Robbins is just like, Mark works Monday to Saturday. Sunday's the only day that we know that we've got. The kids have grown up and have moved out. We have a lie-in, and then it's like free Prosecco all the way through, bottomless brunch. We go to drag brunch. We have 3 bottles of Prosecco, and then we just go home and just totally dish for the rest of the night.
It is what it is, man.
Last time that we recorded, I said that I'd tried to get through to Fankati Dabo, and his Twitter profile was set to private. He has since declassified his social media account, and I've been able to DM him. Ooh. And I've DM'd him twice, and he's not responded. So, one, this is a call to anyone who might be able to help us establish contact with Fankati Dabo, because principally, I would love to talk to him because he seems like a very interesting gentleman. 2, I want to talk to any COV player that's worked under Robbins and ask them what he's like to work for. I'm desperate to get a player's take on what it's like to, because we had the opportunity.
We've never asked, have we? What are we playing at?
We didn't really talk about it. Well, because
asking who the best player is.
We hadn't got we've got the benefit of hindsight now.
So that's really interesting information, yeah.
I guess the problem is that Robbins is quite ruthless with the players that he releases, right? There's not many that have gone on to bigger and better things. So
I can think of one.
Right. Okay. I don't have any links to Portugal, unfortunately, but I'm not sure that Biamu would be a huge fan of him, for example.
He lets him in all the time. He's always turning up.
He turns up. I'm not sure if Robbins is the one letting him in.
Mark's Neil from The Office, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. Because you spoke to Grimmer and Davis, didn't you, about him?
This is what we're saying is that we had Grimmer, Davis, Tom Bayliss, Nolte, who were absolutely Chris Stokes, who I think was arguably the best bigger Romana. All of them wonderful raconteurs, lovely gentlemen, but for whatever reason we didn't do a lot of Robin's chat. But I think if you think about the lineage, is that he came in at the end of the League One season where we got relegated. Then we got promoted from League Two, and it's that summer or is it the summer
we
after?
did it COVID year. So that was when we just won the League One.
Is it though?
It was, yeah. We did the first one in November, the year of that season, and then we did McNulty, and then we rattled through 3 in a row at COVID year 2020.
So is Bayliss gone by that point?
Yeah. Because Bayliss left us in League One, but he didn't get promoted with us, did he?
No, this is what I'm saying. So so I thought he was still there.
No, we remember our rule.
No, of course, because he's in a hotel room. He's at Preston as a kid.
Yeah.
Of course. But for whatever reason, we're not asking about Robbins. It's my fault. We're asking about, like you say, the best players you played with. What's Michael Doran like?
Exactly that.
Robbins at the time wasn't the big draw, the big question, whereas now is that you're desperate to know what's going on. And I guess the other elephant in the room is you're saying, what was AD like?
Yeah.
What's the
I don't
division?
think anyone's going to talk about AD though. Not. I mean, they might talk about like how he was, but I imagine that there's going to be a veil of silence around that.
What, for legal reasons?
Possibly.
Okay, employment law. Yep.
But I was just looking at, that Callum O'Hare, there was that rumour that he'd slagged off the club a while ago.
That made up thing, yeah.
Yeah, and then he came out and was like, I didn't do it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I was just looking at his comments now. You're embarrassing. Whoever believes any of this nonsense is mad. Why would I ever say anything bad about a top manager who helped make me the player I am today? So that's nice.
I believe him.
I wonder whether that's helped ever so slightly by the fact that Sheffield United fans, I believe, see him as the devil.
Possibly.
They don't deserve anybody.
No, they certainly don't deserve Gus.
It's absolutely vile to think that, and I've got a very ingrained dislike of Yorkshire generally. And Leeds are kind of, is the capital of Yorkshire as far as I'm concerned, but Sheffield United is certainly second behind it. For them to have Gus and O'Hare is troubling to me.
Yeah, it's galling, isn't it?
It's not right at all.
They're not the right sort of club. No, thank you. Boring as sin.
But not nice. Bad people. And I know it's the same. I know it's the same city. Sheffield Wednesday. Good people. Actually, no, racist.
Really? Famously, not so much.
Prior to last season, fine.
Good as gold.
Do you know what I think they've been? I think they've been brainwashed and radicalised by Tommy Robinson. I think that's what's happened. And it's a shame for the people of Sheffield Wednesday because they don't know that they've been brainwashed in that way, but that now all of Sheffield is bad.
Speaking of, we've got Luton on Saturday, haven't we?
Oh, of course, yeah. Do you think that Stephen Yaxley will be in attendance, or do you think he will do what he normally does and say one thing and then mean an entirely different other thing?
Possibly that, yeah.
No politics, please.
No.
There we go.
All right.
I think we've solved everything, haven't we?
Yeah, probably. I think as long as Mark listens to this, then we'll be fine for Saturday, right?
Maybe not, but we'll see. We'll be all right. We'll be all right, guys. That's how it works, isn't it?
Hey, let's do one final question. When will it turn round?
Within the next fortnight, which is normal.
Imogen?
When Mark is ready.
I think that's he wishes. Yes. He wishes.
There, you've got the name of the episode there.
Good.
Okay, I think that's just done, isn't it?
Yeah, that was all right. All things considered.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Imogen.
Happy birthday, Neil.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
Happy birthday, Neil. And happy birthday, you listener, whenever your birthday is. It's a sexy sign on.
A sexy sign.
And it's an even sexier sign out. Bye.
Get the bass on that.
You prick.